Well, we discussed somewhat here on the show this week the nomination of Michigander Bridget Brink, who is the current United States ambassador to Slovakia. She's a Michigan native. She has been nominated by the President Biden, to be the new U.S. ambassador to Ukraine. There has not been a person in that post, ambassador to Ukraine, now for a number of years. So again, what do we know about her? What do we know about her career? And I guess the ability to sail through the advise and consent here of the United States Senate. Albert Eisenberg is our guest. He's a commentator with Young Voices, a co-founder of the nonprofit media outlet Broad Plus Liberty, and he's on the other end of our line. Albert, good morning. Welcome back.
Good morning. Thanks for having me again.
You're welcome. What do you know about Bridget Brink and considerations of her basic qualifications?
Well, Bridget Brink seems like a completely appropriate candidate given the scope of the work to be done in Ukraine with our Western allies and with the Russian invasion likely lingering for many more years to come. She's a State Department alum since the 1990s. She speaks 4 or 5 languages, as many
including
people
Russian.
As many people are in that part of the world are familiar with. And I think a lot of the time ambassadorships are sort of plum appointments that are given to major campaign donors with no foreign policy experience. So it's great to see somebody who was a Trump nominee, who's got bipartisan credentials, and seems like an actual expert in a very key role.
Well, and, she's in Slovakia. Now, prior, the co-chair of the current Michigan Republican Party, Ron Weiser, was ambassador to Slovakia, but he would be, let's be honest, he's in that donor mode, okay? Someone highly influential in GOP politics. And,
correct.
Both parties have done this, but she would seem to be the exception to that particular rule, even though she was nominated to her current post by President Trump. It does not look like it certainly does not look like your typical political appointee, correct?
Definitely true, and I think what you just said is totally accurate, and I think it's fair to give credit where it's due to the Biden administration. I don't think when you look at their handling of the economy and the inflation rate, the border, Afghanistan, I think that the situation in Ukraine and America's handling of it, there's always critiques to be made specifically on, our domestic energy production and who you're sanctioning in Putin's circle. But I think relative to the other failures of the Biden administration, the Biden administration has handled the Ukraine situation relatively well. We've rallied our allies. I think we've showed up fairly well in an international arena, and we have not marched to war, which is important, nor have we shrunk from Putin. So there's that middle path that we need to be taking, and I think this is good on them for nominating her.
I guess the only question I would have about her, and again, not being able to speak with her, that we'd love to, but the only question I would have is, does help and raise the flag daily at the embassy in Bratislava prepare you for this? Because, Slovakia, its neighboring Czech Republic, the somewhat more controversial only politically, Hungary. I mean, these are countries that they're not at war. There's not in danger of war, and things have been pretty stable in places where America is well liked. It's not that we aren't in Ukraine, but does she have a background that would prepare her for a war footing situation as a diplomat? And I guess that'd be my only real question. I don't know the answer to that. Yeah, maybe you do.
Well, I'm not sure I know the answer either. And if you're looking at credentials only, this woman has been everywhere from Cyprus to Azerbaijan, and the connection in Hungary is important with, whether or not Putin's allies will be supporting him and to what extent. And the multiple languages certainly helps her understand not just the spoken language, but probably the cultures that exist in that part of the world, which, truly is a melting pot between, Yugoslavia, the former Ottoman Empire, the Russian Empire, the USSR. It's like nothing you would imagine if you haven't been over there and lived.
Well, that part's true.
And I think
she's operating as a right. And Albert, she's operating as an ambassador and a former member of the. When that was all one country, Czechoslovakia, they were a member of the Warsaw Pact, and an area that was some places ravaged, other places not at all by World War II in that particular zone, but always that threat is over the shoulder, and where, again, the United States and its vision of both economy, politics, freedom has been pretty darn popular in recent years. You mentioned Hungary, and that's somewhat of a question mark. But other than Alexander Lukashenko in Belarus, these other leaders, even if they kind of admire the power of Vladimir Putin, I mean, this has really closed the door on Putin love fest the last couple months, hasn't it? Pretty much.
That's, what's been reported on the ground. And certainly when Putin invaded the Donbass region in the 2010s, he was greeted much more as a liberator by the ethnic Russians that lived there. And from what I've read and what's been reported, I think it's hard to wrap your mind around the level of destruction that the Russian army, with really no pretense, has gone and wrought in Ukraine. And I think he's going to be isolated. But that being said, the Fidesz party in Hungary and the Germans and Western Europe in general have been absolutely appeasing at best towards Russia and the Russian aggression. And at the end of the day, Germany's sending millions of euros a day in natural gas and oil payments to Russia. The Biden administration has not helped approve pipelines in America. We haven't lifted restrictions on exporting liquefied natural gas. And there's a lot more to be done. So, as far as this woman, Bridget Brink's role, it's going to be America's foreign policy voice in Ukraine. But there's a lot of other partnerships and key efforts that need to be made in order to put Russia back in its box and make sure that Putin is going to face every level of economic and military devastation from this aggression.
Albert Eisenberg, our guest today. Albert, based in Philadelphia, that bastion of conservative intellectualism that it is. So that would be him.
Mark
and
Stein
the other
was born here.
Okay. Well.
Oh, sorry, Mark Levin. Excuse me. He's a Philadelphian.
Okay. So there's two. And then, I'm kidding. I'm kidding here overall. I mean, it used to be a bastion of independent political thought, so much so that the country was literally founded in Philadelphia. And it was. It was born in Philadelphia. But tell people what your website, what you're doing now.
Sure. And just so you know, we are a bastion of independent thought because Philadelphia was literally the only city to bring back the mask mandate a week ago, and then quickly put it back in the box when the other blue cities didn't follow suit. So independent thought, not in the right way.
Who's with me? Nobody. And then who's with me? Nobody.
Yeah, right.
See, crawl under the desk. Okay. All right. So tell people about your website, Broad and Liberty.
So Broad and Liberty is a nonprofit media outlet. We focus on local issues, Tocquevillian sort of approach to local news as the local news has gotten as woke as the national news. And I'd encourage your followers and listeners to check it out at broadandliberty.com and consider working on their own news sources in their own local environments, whether it's in Lansing or elsewhere, because we certainly need people beyond, politics and the judiciary to be promoting our message.
Now for Albert, when he just went all fancy pants on us, for listeners here, Tocqueville means, Alexa, the Tocqueville, the former, I think he was the French foreign minister, right, who came here and quite famously looked around America and said, wow, you guys have got something here. And he shared it with the world. I think wasn't he the one, okay, you correct me if I'm wrong before we go. Was he the one who said America is great because America is good, and when America ceases to be good, America will not be great? Was that him?
I believe you're correct, and it's kind of fun to go full circle on the diplomacy. He certainly believed in, American institutions started by enterprising individuals. So that's what I say when I say that.
I get it, but it's a great name to bring up because people should look him up more often. I should get my quotes right, and I don't know if I did, but now furiously
I'll have to
fact check myself. All right. Albert Eisenberg, our guest here at Broad and Liberty. Thanks, Albert. Take care. Stay safe. We'll talk again, okay?
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
You too. We're coming back. 1320 WILS.